Myth number 4, I have it all under control. Those are very dangerous words when I hear somebody say that when I come into their office and they're on a boatload of medications or whatever it happens to be, right? The rule number 1 that when we start to ask questions, it's very apparent that they've never actually had their lifestyle addressed or like started to look at the cause or been tested appropriately. I have it under control is a very scary term, and the reason I say that is that most people, when they say that, right, they've been given freedom to just do whatever they want with their lifestyle because the medications are making whatever numbers, right, that they have done on them, make their numbers look better while their problem continues to progress. If we look at the leading causes of death in the United States today, diabetes is number 6, but what you will see as we go through this is that most of these have a link to insulin resistance and abnormal blood glucose utilization. Which means that if we say we have it under control, just because the numbers look good on the surface does not mean we're destined for health. If you look at a lot of the long-term implications of diabetics are pretty miserable, and the reason that is because you can't medicate yourself out of a lifestyle problem. Heart disease, okay? Several lifestyle and dietary modifications can dramatically reduce the risk of heart disease. This isn't, rocket science here. Cardiovascular death rates in 2003 to 2006, after adjusting for population age differences, cardiovascular disease death rates were about 1.7 times higher among adults with diabetes, okay? A heart attack, right? So in 2000, and that's where we talk about, can we actually put this whole disease process or this whole abnormal human physiology through supporting healing, can we actually put these things into remission, right? Heart attack rates in 2010, after adjusting for population age differences, hospitalization rates for heart attacks were 1.8 times higher among adults 20 years or older with diabetes compared to those without. Cancer. The World Cancer Research Fund has estimated up to 1/3 of cancer cases that occur in economically developed countries like the US are related to being overweight, obese, inactive, or having poor nutrition. We know that there's an extremely high correlation between insulin resistance, because insulin, again, is your fat storage hormone, right? It leads to the after product of obesity. Sugar disappears from the urine of cancer patients because cancer cells are eating sugar, okay? And that's when you look at some specific nutritional practices, many people, there's research that shows that changing those practices will actually help to fight off cancer cells, whether you're doing chemo, whether you're not doing chemo, right? So that's pretty cool, right? So you can actually increase efficacy of whatever treatment you're doing or whatever route that you're going through changing your diet and your lifestyle, okay? Stroke. Okay, another one, right? Several dietary lifestyle and dietary modifications can dramatically reduce the risk of heart disease. In 2010, after adjusting for population age differences, hospitalization rates for stroke were 1.5 times higher among adults with a diagnosis of diabetes. Alzheimer's. We're starting to see a type 3 Alzheimer's, right? Meaning, or a type 3 diabetes, right? Alzheimer's is being seen as a type 3 diabetes. Now, I don't think that's a complete explanation of what's happening there with people that start to develop Alzheimer's. I think there's multiple causes, right? Oxygenation to the brain, glucose control, poor nutrition to the brain, right? Poor movement, poor stimulation of the brain, not getting stimulated like it should be, right? Lots of different contributing causes, and the trick would be to figure out which ones are the problem, right? Alzheimer's disease represents a form of diabetes that selectively afflicts the brain, right? When the brain can no longer use sugar for nutrition or glucose appropriately, the brain becomes insulin resistant. The brain begins to shrink. Research shows the brain begins to shrink when your A1C reaches 5.3 or above. So if we look at that, right, so this is from Dr. Perlmutter. If we look at insulin age, shrinkage of memory centers is a direct correlation to our fasting plasma blood sugar levels. So if you think about this, right, and this kind of goes into some of this other stuff of like, if a person's on long-term steroid use, and which is going to elevate blood glucose levels and a lot of these other things, right, if we're not addressing that cause and having an optimal blood glucose control, you're destined for problems. Where they happen is up to your genes, right? Some people, their genes lean towards Alzheimer's. Other people might be leading towards that type 2 diabetes. You know, maybe other people are heart disease, right? Just depends upon how that your DNA sets you up for what problems happen when our body can adapt to the stressors around it. Next one up, kidney disease, okay? Diabetes is listed as the primary cause of kidney failure in 44% of all new cases in 2011. 50,000 people of all ages began treatment for kidney failure due to diabetes. Guys, it's miserable, and I feel so bad for people that have to be on chronic kidney dialysis. Avoid it if you can, right? Correct the problem, save those kidneys. So if you look at this, do a quick checking back, right? 10 leading causes of death in the US: heart disease, cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, kidney disease. All of these are very much related to how your body manages insulin, okay? Now, I would even say that insulin downregulates immune function as well, and there's a number of other factors that come into play in all of these. But even the flu and pneumonia, right? A more susceptible or a weak immune system makes that person more likely to be affected by the influenza or pneumonia.